conserving red-cockaded woodpeckers in Arkansas. And we are very fortunate tonight to have somebody who has made a huge contribution in that respect. But the person who knows it best is Frances Rothwein. And Frances, come on up. And Frances is a wildlife biologist on the Ouachita National Forest, and she helped me when I was a graduate student. In fact, when I caught my first rat snake, a big rat snake, Frances and I handled it while her wildlife tech ran for the truck.
The Red-cockaded Woodpecker Conservation Award for this year goes to Larry Hedrick of Ouachita National Forest. Larry is the Integrated Resources Staff Officer in our Forest Supervisor's Office in Hot Springs. Larry will be retiring in December of this year, and all of us are planning to have a nervous breakdown in January of next year. Now, this title may not mean a whole lot to the people here that are not in the Forest Service, but what Larry has done in his 22 years in Hot Springs is he has managed to bring together timber management, wildlife management, soil and water protection, and recovery efforts of threatened and endangered species within the emphasis, and all of it specifically was aimed at managing an area for red-cockaded woodpeckers. This basically was Larry's brainchild, and he's had the drive to keep it together. In 1988, when Larry arrived at Ouachita, there were 9 active clusters of red-cockaded woodpecker. This year, there are 57. Wow. Larry received his BS and MS degrees from Texas A&M, and right now they're losing Larry. I'm sorry, there's still time.
We're used to it.
And he began working for the Forest Service in January of 1974. He's been involved with red-cockaded woodpeckers throughout his entire career, which has included the National Forest in Texas, National Forest in Alabama, and now here at Ouachita National Forest since 1987. Larry was brought into the Ouachita in part because of earlier policies had accepted complete loss of RCWs on this forest. He provided leadership, staff, and funding to see the RCW management went from a failure to recovery. He saw to it that efforts went into an ecosystem management approach instead of single bird management. He and others on the forest spent thousands of hours giving programs, talks, and spending weekends selling this approach and building public support. I was out on the Buffalo Road tour with Larry just yesterday. Larry especially reached out to the academic community to encourage research aimed at a full understanding of this ecosystem approach. He has been Ouachita National Forest team leader for one of the most active programs of RCW habitat restoration within the bird's southeastern U.S. range. He understood very early that RCWs could not be saved, much less recovered, simply by protecting individual birds. That is, he knew you couldn't build a wall around a bird and expect it to thrive. RCWs are part of a once widespread ecosystem. What was needed was an ecosystem approach. Let me quote from a recent publication in which he is the lead author. The fire-dependent, short-leaf pine, blue-stem ecosystem community, once common in Ouachita National Forest, had all but disappeared by 1970. This absence was due to the cutting of the original forest in the early part of the 20th century, followed by an effective fire 2005, Ouachita National Forest committed to restore the shortleaf pine blue stem ecosystem on which almost 250,000 acres. During this time, the endangered woodpeckers, Picornis borealis, population has more than doubled. Actually, it's a lot more than doubled. Joe's been gone a year or two. He wrote this. From previously declining. Biologists differ as to how much care about the future of biologists differ as to how much they care about the future of RCWs. Timber operators also vary a lot in how much they care. Environmentalists differ a lot in how their feelings about use of burning on national forest. Larry is unique and that he understands how to bring together timber harvest, prescribed fire, and direct management efforts on behalf of RCWs. That's what integrated resources management is all about. Finally, you have a deep appreciation of the high-ranking Forest Service staff officer who loves his days in the field, where he can open a lunchbox on a roadside, knows well and takes great joy in the songs of Bachman sparrow, all during a long day looking at trees, birds, roads, and results of burning. Our rare woodpeckers have gained ground on the Ouachita because of this enthusiasm, which is why we honor Larry today.
You do me great honor. I first saw the red-cockaded woodpecker in 1968. And boy, this bird is not long for the world. And it wasn't where I saw it. It disappeared. It took a while to learn what it needed, and it took a while to learn how to provide that. I think we got to figure it out now. And I think I'm prouder of this award and our accomplishments and what's happening with the red-cockaded woodpecker in Arkansas than anything else in my career. And I've got great friends. Thank you.
Our real heroes are ones who, their dedication is over a long period of time. We may need to move furniture, particularly for those of you up here, because the screen is going to come magically out of the ceiling somewhere in there. Oh, it's there already. If Carolyn was standing by,
may not need an introduction in terms of the Audubon Society, but I thought I might focus a little bit more on his professional career that some of you may not know as much about. Doug was raised in Detroit, grew up as a Detroit Tigers fan, one of the few people I know who watched Babe Ruth play baseball. He was not drafted in World War II, and so he attended the University of Michigan, being one of the few male students on campus. Graduating in 1946. He didn't complain about that. He got a master's degree in 1947 from University of Michigan, and then went to work with the famous avian physiologist Charles Kendi at University of Illinois. For his PhD research, Doug pursued the mechanisms behind blackbird roosts and finished his degree in 1957. My graduate students are in the back of the room. They are Doug's academic grandchildren. And they will be impressed with how Doug got the job at University of Arkansas. As he came to the close of his doctoral research, he was called into Dr. Kendi's office, and Dr. Kendi told him of the 3 ornithology jobs that were available that year, and said, "Which one would you like?" And Doug said, "I'll take Arkansas." So a phone call was made, a deal was done. Not the way things work today. So he started in 1953 at the university and was promptly drafted and spent the next 2 years at Pine Bluff, at the Arsenal in Pine Bluff. He, there's lots of things, you know. He came to Arkansas and replaced William Bard as the person teaching ornithology. And William Bard was from the entomology department. So for the history of the 2 people have taught ornithology at the university. Actually 3. I taught it 1 year when Doug was on sabbatical. He has taught a wide variety of courses at the university in biology, zoology, especially ornithology, mammalogy, ecology, tropical ecology, and animal behavior. And he used to teach a very popular undergraduate course called simply Natural History, which dealt with all organisms found in the Ozarks. And Ed Dale, who was our botanist at the time, always said that Doug was the best botanist on the faculty. He is the fellow in the American Association for the Advancement of Science. He also is a fellow in the American Ornithologist Union and the Arkansas Museum of Science and History. He's one of the few people who have ever been awarded 3 Fulbright scholarships. Typically, if you have 2, they say that's it, no more. But Doug has had 3, the first going to Ghana in the early 1970s, the second going to Nepal, which is why the University of Arkansas hired me for 1 year, replaced Doug when he went to Nepal, and then to Belize in the late 1980s. He also has been a visiting scholar at Cambridge, University of Cambridge in England, in 1994-95. He's the past president of the Wilson Ornithological Society, which is one of the 3 national ornithological societies in the United States. He, of course, has published The Birds of Arkansas with Joe Neal, but he also is the author of almost 100 other scientific publications. He has had 79 graduate students, 54 master's degrees, which I got my master's degree. Jeff Short and his wife Joy are in the back here. Jeff was another master's student when I was a graduate student. And he's had 25 people finish their doctoral degrees under his direction. He's a member of a variety of scientific societies, and over the last several years, he's won a number of awards. In 2002, he won the University of Arkansas Charles and Dean Baum Outstanding Teacher Award, which is the highest teaching award the University of Arkansas awards. And he also was elected to the Arkansas Teaching Academy, and he won the Fulbright College Master Teacher Award in 2003. Also in 2003, he won a national award for his teaching the National Award for Innovative Excellence in Teaching, Learning, and Technology. And he was awarded that in the national meeting in Florida. He also won the Fulbright College Master Research Award in 2006, and also in 2006, the Southwestern Association of Naturalists awarded him the Eminent Nationalist Award for research for his career. In 2004, he was appointed as the first University Professor of Biological Sciences in our department. On the occasion of his 81st birthday in July, we started a fundraiser for the Arkansas Audubon Society. And today we've raised about $22,750. And we'd like to give the $3,000. So if you are thinking about making a contribution, you might think about making a contribution in Doug's name to the Arkansas Audubon Society. Thank you.
In Fort Smith for Red-cockaded cannon, and Cannon noticed that the Arkansas Audubon Society needed more funding, and he noticed that the Arkansas Audubon Society Trust was rolling in money, so he decided to volunteer me in the event on the occasion of my 85th birthday as a fundraiser. And so I told him, I'll get even with you. And actually, he was supposed to introduce me at this event, but several years ago, or a few years ago, Kenan and I wrote a paper published in an ecological journal in Asia on the effect of global warming on tropical birds. So ever since that happened, Kenan gets called back to India to participate in a seminar, and that's what happened. He's back in India participating in another global warming seminar, so I figure Kim could say, I'll get even with you. The idea was for me to trace my experiences with ornithology, especially emphasizing ornithology while I was in Arkansas. So I brought some stuff with me. I'll put them on the shelf here. I brought my first pair of binoculars. Here's the only kind of binoculars that were available when I started birding. Three-power opera glass. The bird book was a bird book by Chester Reed, which had about 100 species of birds in it, one color plate per page. That was the only bird book I had available. But then, when I reached 14 years of age, the Peterson came out. So if you want to see how primitive the Peterson's artwork was back then, you might want to look at some of these pages. There were only about 4 color plates, so finches, warblers. There's very little color in that original. And particularly useful for me were 3 boxes of books, 50 birds each, summer birds, winter birds, and fall. A whole series by the wonderful artist Alan Brooks. One card like this, 50 cards, and it has notes about the birds on the back. And I still got an order form here. It cost $1 a box from the National Audubon Society. since this is supposed to be talk about going to ancient age, I'll tell you some things that I've noticed that you can pick up on that you're getting older. First of all, young ladies on campus start opening the door for me. That's actually number one. I've talked to some older friends and they all agree that's number one. People start addressing you as sir. The same young ladies walk past you on the sidewalk and you're running. And of course, many of us realize that you can't hear high-pitched birds calls anymore. And I find that my students pick up birds, can notice birds much quicker than I can. I can't double-click fast enough on the computer. Sometimes my wiggly finger, my sleepy finger makes me double-click too much. Like when I get an outside line at the university, I want to make a long-distance call, I hit the 9, then my finger hits the 1, whoop, whoop. 911. And an officer appears at my office door. The ultimate insult is people ask me how long I've been retired, and I haven't retired yet. In fact, many of my students are already retired. And I've got some more, but I won't go through them all, except this one. Finding out you have to take pills for just about everything besides Viagra. So with that, we'll go to the main event. Wait, where did I do it? Oh, I got it again. Okay, got it. There. My sister a few years ago surprised me with saying, "Here are some things Mother kept of your artwork when you entered grade school." And so right at I had no idea. I never remembered these. But my name's on this one and name's on the back of the next one. And so, but I do remember when I was in grade school, the economy was in the depths of the depression in the 30s. So just like Fayetteville is now in the recession, there was a lot of construction work that went afoul. And so the land where I lived in a suburb of Detroit was a mixture of natural vegetation, farmland, and started housing complex. And we lived in one of those streets with houses around. So there was a lot of opportunity for a young man like myself to explore nature. And I had quite a long walk to school and back, so I would spend time learning the biota and visiting the frog ponds. And so finally my teachers realized I knew something about the area around the school. So they had, in about either the 3rd or 4th, it's hard to remember, third or fourth grade, they had me lead, during recess time, they had me lead field trips for the class out into the adjacent fields. And I remember the first trip, there was this Osage orange hedge plant. And I said to the class, now if you're real quiet and sneak around that tree, you're going to see a goldfinch. And sure enough, we all were quiet and got around there, and there was a goldfinch singing on the stop. And my teacher said, how did you know? There was a goldfinch there. And I said, well, I know its song. And so then, when I graduated to the next grade in grade school, those teachers had me come back again. And all the way through grade school, I kept coming back, leading field trips. And when I got to junior high, that was the greatest break in junior high. You got a day off, right? And they would go. And invite me back to do those field trips. And also in junior high, I got very active in the Boy Scouts. And we were somewhat of a rebellious group of young men in the Boy Scouts. And so we asked our troop scoutmaster, and he was sympathetic, if we could draw our own constitution, make our own constitution for running the troop. And what we did, it was like states' rights. It was patrol. Each patrol had the right to plan its own destiny. And so, my particular patrol, we went camping someplace out in the boondocks twice a month, sometimes more, but we emphasized bird watching. And so that was the big start of it. And let's see. And I also became a den chief for a Cub Scout den. And so it was up to me to arrange their program. So I communicated with National Audubon Society and used all their material about birding and so forth at that time. So that was a great help, and so I trained a lot of people to watch birds and all that. So then high school was sort of a hiatus. I got more interested in girls, but when I got to the university, I finally got a degree in zoology at Michigan, and also a bachelor and master's degree in zoology in Michigan, and then went to Illinois for my PhD. And let's see if this works. Okay, it does. Okay, this is at the University of Michigan. This is the University of Michigan Biological Station in northern Michigan in 1956. The fellow with the red circle, anyone here ever hear about DNA? Well, that's the guy who got the Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of DNA. Jim Watson. And then the yellow circle is me standing next to him. The professor on the far right is Kendi, that Kim Smith mentioned. Had started the PhD program at Michigan, but the PhD program heavily emphasized specimens and taxonomy, where Kendi came along and he emphasized avian ecology. So I followed him to Illinois to enter the doctoral program in Illinois, because that was something that fascinated me more than taxonomy. Kendi was teaching that advanced ecology course that one summer because Pettengill, who normally taught the course, was off that summer. He was flying over Canada looking for the whooping crane nesting grounds, but he never found it. It was discovered later by others. But anyway, it was fortunate that Kendi was there, and I got an opportunity to meet him, and then went to Illinois. There we are. This is Watson and I. Jim wrote me a few years ago and said, I want to go see the Ozarks. So I said, come on down, we'll go birding. And actually, we were both in that ornithology class together because we both aspired to be ornithologists back then. I tell everyone, I made it, he didn't. So he came back, gave a public lecture in Fayetteville, jammed the place, and then we went birding for 2 days in the Ouachitas and the Ozarks. A lot of birds from southern states that don't occur up in New York State. And when Pettengill came back the next summer, he wanted me, I took a special problem course, and he wanted me to set up a bird census area there at the University of Michigan Biological Station, so that he could try some of the things about avian ecology and populations that Kendi did. So I set up a 50-acre census plot in the aspen forest. When I'd set it up, the aspens were just a little bit taller than my head. And I've been running that plot for over 60 years. And I don't do it every year. Don't say, oh goodness, I don't do it every year. I do it about every 5 years. But when I do it, I do 2 in a succession to get it back up. And that aspen there in the right foreground is as big as any aspen I've ever seen. In fact, most of the aspen trees don't get a chance to get that big because they harvest them and make paper pulp for a toilet paper factory that's in a nearby town. But this is protected on the biological station ground, which is really amazing how big they can get if given a chance. And actually the bird population has been increasing as the aspens, through the years, as the aspens get bigger. The ecological succession up there is extremely slow. There would be a different ecosystem by now down here. But just now, we've been analyzing the vegetation as well annually, and only now can you begin to see conifers about waist high coming up under the aspens. So that'll be the next forest. And then I was a charter member in 1955 of the Arkansas Audubon Society. I was elected to the board, and as a board member I became responsible for the curator of records, and actually kept those files accumulated over the years and became the material from which we wrote the bird book, Arkansas Birds. But as a curator, I also started the first newsletter. And this is my artwork, my drawing, my drawing of the banner for those issues when I was newsletter editor, and I think others used that banner for a while. And then I also illustrated with cartoons, and I expect everyone to laugh boisterously at this one. Several cartoons, there's one. This is back in the days when we weren't using radar to follow bird migration. We were